What does it really mean to invest in your craft? Hello, 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 and welcome to More Than Money, a podcast where we have nuanced conversations about money, business, and life, where we take the time to explore the human side of money because success with money is never just about the numbers. And you could say that we talk about money differently here. I'm your host, Jacquette Timmons. And whether this is your very first episode or one of many, I am really, really glad that you have joined me today. And before we dive into today's episode, it's summertime, it's June. It's a great time to pause and invest in taking your financial and behavioral understanding to the next level. And I just happen to have the perfect tool to help you. It's the More Than Money workbook and its audio companion. It's a combination that's designed to help you align your money with a bigger vision. And it is a holistic experience that blends practical tools like milestones, reflections, and rituals with emotional insights that will help you to create a financial strategy that actually fits you. And it's designed to increase your financial clarity, your confidence, and your self awareness. And all you need to do to get started is go to jaquettetimmons.com/digital dash products. Again, jaquettetimmons.com/digital dash products. So let's get into today's show. So, as you know, I record these, and sometimes there is a lag between when they actually go live. So, I am recording this in June on the heels of spending 2 days at a retreat in June that was hosted by Mike Ganino himself, and it is called the Mike Drop Era Retreat. And you have likely heard me talk about him before because I've been working with him for several years, and this happens to have been my fourth retreat in 3 years. And each one just keeps getting better and better. And it keeps getting better, yes, because of the experience, but also because of the deepening 3D relationships and insights that I get to carry home, but also because of what I leave committed to do. And I say that because when I got home late in the evening after day two, I was tired, but I was tired for all of the right reasons. One was my soul was convicted. When asked about one of my takeaways, I shared that a really, important awareness that was spotlighted for me was just this recognizing that it's not about working hard, but doing the right hard work. And the question that I have been sitting with and am still sitting with, and now it's about a week later, is how do I increase my discernment? How do I increase my discernment in order to recognize the difference between hard work that is just simply busy work versus hard work that is moving me closer to the payoff that I envision? So, like I said, that's reason number one. Reason number two, my mind is buzzing. It is buzzing with ideas for tweaking my keynotes and masterclasses to make them even more impactful. And also with new clarity around the business models of speaking, especially the two models that I realize that I really need to optimize even further, especially given some of the things that have changed with regard to some of my clients, i.e. law firms. I need to optimize some things. So it really gave me some ideas around that. And then here's number three, my goals. They just got elevated. On a scale of what's the worst case scenario to what's the best case scenario, I am noodling on not just how do I avoid the worst entirely, but how do I actually shorten my timeline to the best case? And really, if we really dig into that, what this is really about is not just what do I need to do differently, but who do I need to be to make the best case scenario possible? And when I say who do I need to be, like, what are the courageous choices and actions that I need to make and take? And it's really interesting because one of our guest speakers, Laura Gassner Otting, and I've talked about her here on the podcast before as well. She delivered a line that just hit me square in the chest. And she said, quote, "If your goals don't scare you, they are just tasks," end quote. I mean, like, well, damn. That is a line that will absolutely stay with you. I know it has stayed with me anyway. But in short, that weekend was about investing in my voice, investing in my value, and I'd like to say investing in my vibe. And it was an opportunity to intentionally choose to deepen my expertise, not just as a speaker, but as a storyteller, a teacher, and a business owner. This was my way of investing in my craft. And guess what? It almost didn't happen because when Mike initially announced the dates for the New York City event in the fall of 2024, I had a conflict. Ironically, a speaking engagement. That engagement subsequently fell through, making it possible for me to, have my version of being in the room where it happens. And I got to tell you, I am very, very grateful. And by now, you know me, or if you don't, you will get to know me, and you will then get to understand that what I often do is when I experience something and it sparks questions for me, well, then they also then spark questions for you. And so my question, I should say they instigate questions for you. And so my question is, how do you invest in yourself? And is it an ongoing practice for you or a process where you engage with it on an as needed basis? And if it is the latter, then what triggers your yes? And when you do invest in yourself, are you clear about why you said yes to the experience? Do you have an idea of what it is that you hope to gain and what makes now, whenever that is, whether now is today, now is next week, now is next month, next year, what makes now the right time? I'm asking these questions because I wonder sometimes if you and I truly appreciate how big of a deal investing in yourself is. If you pause to soak in what it means to put yourself in a position to be both vulnerable and ambitious, I just got to shake my head for those of you that are not watching and you're just listening. It's like, whoo, child. When my speaking gig fell through, I immediately sent Mike a text asking if there was still space. And for me, when he said yes, my yes was unequivocal. Working with Mike as I have over these years and just seeing how my speaking game has improved, I never once questioned if this was the right investment for me to make. Plus, I knew that I would leave with more insights. And, even with knowing that, um, I still was surprised. I was surprised, even though I knew I should not have been. And what do I mean by that? I was surprised by how you can hear something several times and always learn something new. And it's funny because this is something that I actually tell my clients, especially when it comes to some of the exercises that we do. For example, financial flywheel. I encourage people to at least do that once a year because more than likely your answers will change. And so I know that that is a part of our human experience that we'll do something or we'll see something or we'll read something. And on that subsequent version, we will, we'll take something else, away from it, or we'll notice something that we didn't before. And yet I was surprised. I was also surprised by me recognizing how much more self trust I now have. And let me provide you with a little bit of context for that comment. My first speaking gig was in 1996. And this means that I was well versed in the classic rhetorical structure of scripting and delivering my talks. And I knew I was great. And I don't just say that, in a braggadocious way. I knew I was great because of the feedback that I was getting and because of the repeat engagements that I would get from the same client. So that's, affirmation for me that it was working. But I sought out Mike because I wanted to, dial things up a bit and go from great to really being remarkable, right? And working with him has truly been a whole vibe, particularly since I've tweaked how I script, how I practice, and how I deliver my talks. And although the changes may be few and subtle, they're changes nonetheless, and they have had a profound and significant impact on how I feel about my design and preparation process and my delivery, but also how it is experienced. So, for example, I had to unlearn the traditional advice of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And if you are of a particular age and you have done any sort of presentations, whether it was in college and, graduate school, in your professional life, you probably were taught that that is the way that you do presentations. I think about that now and I'm like, ooh, barf. I also had to give myself permission to open with a story and give myself permission not to hide behind my expertise by jumping straight into the how to's before really making a case for why they matter in the first place. Also, I had to tweak my own self evaluation and base it less on how well I memorized my talk to how well I embodied my talk. And one of the things that Mike often says, and I am paraphrasing this a little bit, you don't need more slides. You need to create more moments. And I would say more moments of connection. And given the central theme of my talks, money, creating moments and moments of connection is precisely what will enable people to make the changes that they are hoping to make and to adopt the beliefs that I am hoping that they will adopt, which is that we need to move beyond just focusing on the numbers when it comes to money and really having nuanced conversations and talking about the emotions and the psychology of it and recognizing that everything is within context. And we really need to take and pay attention to that. So I've just used my latest retreat experience and my little, ad lib diatribe, if you will, and the speaking arm of my business to talk about the power of investing in your craft. Because you know what? You could just as easily swap out my example of speaking for your own, whether that is you're focusing on your professional development or running a business or your approach to managing money. These two are examples of working on your craft or a craft. And these also represent opportunities to go from good to great to excellent. These are also areas where you rarely improve in isolation, entirely on your own effort, without the support, the guidance, and the advice from a qualified third party professional. And they also represent key areas where staying stagnant, you can choose to do that, but it comes with hidden costs. So that's a choice. Sometimes you're making it intentionally, sometimes you're not, but it's still a choice and it comes with some hidden costs. So for me, I look at investing in my craft as an ongoing practice. I view it as a courageous act precisely because it is a vulnerable experience. It's vulnerable, whether you're talking about money, whether you're talking about speaking, whether you're talking about coaching, or whatever it is that you do whatever it is that you do. When you are talking about taking it to the next level, that means admitting that there is some aspect of it that you are not able to do on your own to take it to a next level. So you've got to like show where you are. You've got to show the choices you've made, perhaps the mistakes that you've made, and be open, right? And being open means being vulnerable. Be open to the feedback that you're getting, which means that it really should come from a qualified third party professional, because you need to be careful about who you're taking feedback from. But whether that vulnerability is exposed in a one-on-one situation or as part of a group experience, you're being vulnerable. And that vulnerability requires trust on a few fronts. It requires self-trust, and it also requires trust of the other person and the people that they have gathered when it is a group format. You've got to trust that they are not going to put you in an unsafe environment. And when I say unsafe, I wasn't thinking physical, but I guess that's too, but unsafe where, what you share will be contained within that confidential space, if you will. And here's something else. How can I expect others to work with me to help them improve their craft if I'm not doing the same? It feels incongruous and disingenuous to me if I am not walking my talk. So whether I am, laser focused on the speaking arm of my business, on the coaching arm of my business, or even just with my own finances, if I am not working with others to help me get better at that, how can I stand firmly in my position of asking people to allow me to play that role in their life, in their business, and with their money? So, just as I am grateful to Mike and the role that he plays in my life and business and how he pushes me to always go a little bit deeper, I need you to know that I am grateful for my clients, coaching and speaking. I am grateful for the readers of my weekly newsletter and blog and my social media content. I am grateful for you for listening to my podcast with whatever regularity you do that. Because here's the deal. You've put your trust in me, and you allow me to play a similar role in your life and your business and with your money. And so now I ask, what would it look like for you to invest in your craft or to recommit to your own growth? And how can I help? If you were feeling the nudge to grow or to recommit to the version of yourself that you are becoming, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram and write craft. And I'll know that you're referencing this episode. And if you're interested in working together, let me know that, because I will schedule, I will send you a link, I should say, to schedule a discovery call so that we can talk about what your next level might look like. But even if you're not interested in working with me, I am still curious about what does investing in your craft look like. So tell me. But for now, that is a wrap for today, folks. As always, thank you for listening and maybe even watching if you're joining us on YouTube. If you like what you have heard and you would like to show appreciation for this podcast overall, or perhaps this particular episode, please do me a favor and share it. Because when you share it with those in your circle, it helps us to reach more people than we could on our own. And if you happen to be listening with Apple Podcasts or on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and leave a rating and a review. Go on and hit those 5 stars. But I'm asking for a combination of both, because that is what helps us with the algorithm. And look, that's a reality, right? So that's what helps us with the algorithm and helps us to be found by people who are interested in having different conversations when it comes to money. And of course, if you are on YouTube, please comment below, because we do read those as well. And here's one more shout out before I hop for the More Than Money Workbook and its audio companion. Remember, it's designed to increase your financial clarity, your financial confidence, and your financial self-awareness. And I hope you will add it to your money toolkit. And of course, if you would like to buy me and iced dirty chai latte. Here's how you can do that. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Thanks again for listening or watching, as the case may be. I will be back with another episode, and I hope that you will too. Until then, remember, it's about more than money.